Imagine waking up one morning, reaching for your car keys, only to realize that driving just isn't an option anymore. Maybe it's vision changes, reflexes slowing, or simply the weight of responsibility behind the wheel. Does this mean your independence is slipping away? Absolutely not. In fact, new doors to freedom are about to open. Today we'll explore 15 smart, reliable transport options that keep you mobile, active, and in control of your life. Ready to discover your next adventure? Let's begin. 1. Senior-friendly buses and trains. I remember the day I handed over my car keys for the last time. It wasn't an easy decision, but deep down, I knew the road didn't feel the same anymore. The traffic, the night glare, the split-second decisions, I could do without the stress. But the real question was, how was I going to get around? That's when I discovered something I had ignored for years: my city's senior transit pass. At first, the idea of taking the bus seemed daunting. What if I didn't know the routes? What if I missed my stop? But I told myself, you've faced bigger challenges in life. A bus schedule isn't one of them. The first ride was an adventure. I clutched my purse, heart pounding, feeling like a teenager taking the train alone for the first time. But then I saw her, a woman about my age, sitting comfortably, smiling at me. She waved and said, "First time?" I nodded. "You'll love it. No parking, no gas bills. Just hop on and relax." And you know what? She was right. The bus became my lifeline. It wasn't just about transportation. It was freedom without responsibility. I could read, people watch, even strike up a conversation without gripping the wheel in anxiety. The discounted fares were a cherry on top. If you're unsure where to start, call your local transit authority. Many offer free travel training programs for seniors, showing you how to navigate routes confidently. You might feel hesitant at first. I sure did. But once you take that first step, you'll wonder why you waited so long. 2. Paratransit services, door-to-door assistance. Public transport is fantastic, but let's be honest, not all of us are up for long walks to the bus stop or climbing onto high steps. That's where something even more convenient comes in. Paratransit services. I first heard about it from my neighbor, Mrs. Adler, a vibrant 82-year-old with the sharpest wit. She had recently undergone knee surgery. Driving was out of the question, but staying home all day? Not her style. One morning, I saw a small van pull up in front of her house. A driver stepped out, walked up to her door, and helped her into the vehicle. Curious, I asked her about it later. "Oh, it's a game changer," she beamed. "They pick me up right at my doorstep. No fuss." That was all I needed to hear. I looked up our city's paratransit program, filled out a simple application, and within a week, I had access to safe, affordable, and stress-free rides. These services cater specifically to seniors and individuals with mobility challenges. The drivers are patient, the vehicles are accessible, and the best part? No standing in the cold waiting for a ride. If you're dealing with arthritis, difficulty walking, or any mobility concerns, this is an option worth exploring. Most cities have these programs, but they often require advance reservations, so check in with your local transportation office. And if the idea of setting it up feels overwhelming, ask a friend or family member to help. Independence isn't about driving. It's about having choices. 3. Community shuttle buses. Sometimes the best solutions are right in front of us. We just don't know about them. I'd been using the bus and paratransit for months when I overheard a conversation at my local grocery store. "I love the shuttle," one woman said. "Shuttle?" My ears perked up. "The senior center's shuttle," she clarified, "picks me up, takes me to the store, the doctor, even social events. It's free, too." How had I missed this? A quick call to my local senior center confirmed it. Our town offered a community shuttle service for seniors with designated stops at key locations. No need to navigate complicated bus routes or wait for paratransit reservations. Just a simple, reliable service designed for people like me. The first time I rode it, I was amazed. Familiar faces filled the seats, conversations flowed easily, and I even made a new friend who invited me to her weekly book club. It wasn't just about getting from point A to point B. It was about connection. Community shuttle buses are often sponsored by local governments, churches, or senior organizations, making them affordable or even free. If you haven't looked into this option yet, call your local senior center or city council. You might be surprised by the services available in your area. For those of us who spent decades behind the wheel, the idea of relying on public transport, paratransit, or shuttles can feel like a loss of control. But I promise you, it's not. It's simply a new way of navigating life, with fewer worries and more opportunities to enjoy the journey. 4. Ride-sharing apps, convenient and customizable. When my daughter first suggested I try Uber, I nearly laughed. "You want me to get into a stranger's car?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. The idea seemed absurd. Back in my day, we were taught never to accept rides from people we didn't know. Now, they wanted me to order one on my phone, like I was picking out a meal. But then, one evening, I found myself in a predicament. A sudden rainstorm, a canceled dinner plan with my usual driver friend, and no taxis in sight. My daughter insisted, "Mom, just try it. I'll book it for you." Before I could argue, a message popped up. "Your driver, Samuel, will arrive in 5 minutes." I stood at my window, half expecting a reckless teenager in a sports car. Instead, an older gentleman in a clean, well-kept sedan pulled up. He stepped out, greeted me warmly, and even held the door open. "First time using Uber?" he asked with a smile. By the time we reached my destination, I had learned about his grandchildren, his years as a retired firefighter, and his favorite jazz records. The experience was not just safe, it was enjoyable. Uber and Lyft have evolved significantly, offering features designed for people like us. You can pre-schedule rides, request a female driver, and even set up family tracking so a loved one can see your ride in real time. And if the technology feels overwhelming, ask a family member to set up your account. You'll be surprised at how easy it becomes after 1 or 2 tries. It's natural to be hesitant about something new. But remember, we've spent our whole lives adapting. This is just another tool to help us stay connected, social, and independent on our own terms. 5. GoGoGrandparent. Rideshare. Without a smartphone. Not everyone wants to fiddle with an app. That's what my friend Sylvia told me when I explained how I'd used Uber. "I don't want to deal with a phone screen," she said. "I just want to call and have a car show up." That's when I told her about GoGoGrandparent. It's a rideshare service designed for seniors. And the best part? No smartphone needed. You just call a phone number, speak to an operator, and they send a car to your door. Sylvia was skeptical at first, but the next week she gave it a shot. She dialed the number, spoke to a friendly voice on the other end, and within 10 minutes, a car was outside waiting for her. It felt like calling a taxi, but way easier, she told me later. GoGoGrandparent has human operators available 24/7 who can book a ride, check on your trip, and even set up regular pickups, perfect for doctor's appointments or weekly grocery trips. They also screen drivers for senior-friendly service and ensure the ride is tailored to your needs. I know many of us resist new technology, and that's okay. The beauty of this option is you don't need to be tech-savvy to use it. Just a simple phone call, and your ride is on the way. If you ever find yourself hesitating because you don't want to deal with apps, remember, there's always another way. This service was designed with us in mind. 6. Senior-friendly local taxi services. Taxis might seem like an old-school option, but for many of us, they've been a reliable standby for years. And believe it or not, there are taxi companies that specifically cater to seniors. I learned about this when my cousin Judy, a retired teacher, told me how she got around. "I have a regular taxi driver," she said. "I call him directly, and he knows exactly what I need." Intrigued, I asked her more. Turns out, she had found a local taxi company with trained drivers who assist seniors. They help with bags, adjust the car seat to be comfortable, and even walk her to her door if needed. Some taxi services even offer monthly memberships, where you can pay a flat rate for unlimited rides within your town. That means no worrying about last-minute fare calculations or dealing with fluctuating app prices. If you're someone who prefers familiarity and consistency, this could be your best bet. Check with your local taxi companies. Many have senior discount programs, and some even allow you to request the same driver each time. The key to feeling secure and confident in your transportation options isn't about using what's trendy. It's about finding what works best for you. Whether it's a ride-sharing app, a call-in service, or a trusted taxi driver, you deserve to move through your world with ease, comfort, and dignity. 7. Church and faith-based transport programs. For as long as I can remember, Sunday mornings were sacred in our home. It wasn't just about attending church. It was the entire ritual. The warmth of familiar faces, the shared hymns, the feeling of being part of something greater than myself. But as the years went on, getting to church became more difficult. Driving was no longer an option, and public transport didn't quite fit my schedule. I wasn't alone in this. My dear friend Marie found herself in the same situation. One Sunday, after missing service for the third week in a row, she sighed and said, "I feel like I'm losing my community." That's when we discovered something beautiful. Our church had a transportation program for seniors. Volunteers from the congregation took turns picking up those who needed a ride. The first time I used it, I was amazed. The driver, a kind gentleman named Paul, greeted me with a warm smile. "We're all family here," he said as he helped me into the car. It wasn't just a ride, it was a lifeline. Before I knew it, my Sundays were filled with laughter again, sitting in the same pew, catching up with friends over coffee after service. The simple act of getting there changed everything. Many places of worship offer free or low-cost transportation for seniors. It's not just about getting to services. Some programs also provide rides for doctor's appointments, grocery shopping, or social outings. If faith has been a steady pillar in your life, don't let transportation stand in the way. Reach out to your local church, mosque, synagogue, or temple. You may be surprised by how eager your community is to support you. 8. Senior companion programs. Neighbors helping neighbors. Sometimes, the best solutions are just a phone call away. That's exactly what I learned when I met Susan. She lived 2 houses down, a retired nurse with a heart as big as the sun. One afternoon, she noticed me struggling with my grocery bags. "Why didn't you ask for help?" She scolded me gently. "I go to the store every Tuesday. Why don't we go together?" And just like that, a simple arrangement turned into a cherished friendship. Every week, she'd pick me up, and we'd shop together. We'd laugh, share stories, and help each other find the best deals. What started as a small act of kindness turned into a beautiful routine. Senior companion programs work the same way. They connect older adults with volunteer drivers or neighbors who are happy to help. It's about more than just transportation. It's about building meaningful relationships and ensuring no one feels isolated. I know asking for help can be hard. We've spent our whole lives being the caregivers, the ones others rely on. But allowing someone to help doesn't take away our independence. It adds to it. If you're unsure where to start, check with local senior centers, nonprofits, or even community boards. You might just find a companion who makes life a little brighter. 9. Nonprofit transport organizations. I used to think medical appointments would be the biggest headache of aging. Not the appointments themselves, but getting there. When my friend Joanne was diagnosed with arthritis, she dreaded every doctor's visit. Not because of the checkups, but because finding transportation was such a challenge. "I don't want to keep bothering my daughter," she told me. "She's got enough on her plate." Then she found a solution, a nonprofit that provided free rides to seniors for medical appointments. The first time she used it, she called me right after. "You won't believe how kind the driver was," she said, relief evident in her voice. "They waited for me, helped me get in, and even walked me to the door." Nonprofits and charity organizations understand that transportation is a major barrier for many seniors. That's why so many of them step in to help. Whether it's a ride to the doctor, pharmacy, or therapy sessions, these services ensure you never have to miss an important appointment. If you or a loved one struggles with finding rides to medical visits, start by checking organizations like the American Cancer Society's Road to Recovery, Dial-a-Ride programs, or your local senior services department. You deserve to receive care without the stress of wondering how to get there. Sometimes, life throws us unexpected changes. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: we are never truly alone. There are hands reaching out to help, whether through faith-based programs, kind neighbors, or nonprofit services. 10. Family car schedules. Turning rides into quality time. I used to hate asking my children for rides. It wasn't because they weren't willing, quite the opposite. My daughter Lisa would drop everything to take me wherever I needed to go, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was inconveniencing her. One day, after declining her offer for the third time that week, she sat me down. "Mom, do you know how many years you drove me to school, to ballet practice, to sleepovers? I don't see this as a chore. I see it as a way to spend time with you." That conversation changed everything. Instead of feeling like a burden, I realized that asking for a ride could be a way to strengthen our bond. We started setting a schedule, a standing agreement that every Tuesday, Lisa would take me grocery shopping, and every Friday, we'd go out for coffee. Surprisingly, these little things became something we both looked forward to. We'd catch up on life, laugh about memories, and sometimes she'd even ask for my advice. It reminded me that relationships are not about keeping score. They're about showing up for each other. If you have family nearby, consider creating a weekly ride schedule with your children, grandchildren, or nieces and nephews. It takes the uncertainty out of transportation, and more importantly, it turns a simple ride into a cherished moment together. 11th. Senior carpool groups. Sharing rides, sharing life. It started with a casual conversation at my book club. A few of us were chatting about how exhausting it was to figure out transportation every week. Then Mary, always the practical one, spoke up. "Why don't we just take turns driving each other?" And just like that, our senior carpool group was born. Every week, a different person would drive. Some of us still had cars, while others relied on those who did. The arrangement worked beautifully. One week, Susan would drive me to our book club, and the next week, I'd hitch a ride with Carol to our favorite bakery. The beauty of carpooling isn't just in the convenience, it's in the shared experience. There's something special about riding together, whether it's swapping stories, discussing the latest mystery novel, or simply enjoying a quiet drive. If you have friends, neighbors, or community members who frequent the same places, why not set up a carpool schedule? It lightens the load for everyone, reduces the hassle of arranging last-minute rides, and best of all, it keeps friendships thriving. 12. hiring a personal driver, an investment in independence. I never thought I'd have a personal driver. That sounded like something only celebrities or business executives had. But when my friend Margaret mentioned that she had hired someone to drive her once a week, I was intrigued. "It's not as expensive as you think," she told me. "I found a retired gentleman who just likes to stay busy. He drives me to my appointments, waits for me, and we chat along the way." That got me thinking. Could I do the same? I started asking around and discovered that many local community centers and senior organizations have lists of trustworthy drivers who offer affordable rates. Some were retirees looking for part-time work. Others were caregivers who specialized in helping seniors. After a few calls, I found someone, a kind woman named Clara, who had worked as a professional caregiver for years. She wasn't just a driver. She was a companion on wheels. She made sure I got inside safely, helped carry my groceries, and never rushed me. For those of us who value independence but don't want the responsibility of owning a car, hiring a personal driver can be a game changer. You get to decide when and where you go, without feeling like you're imposing on anyone. And when you find the right driver, it's like gaining a new friend. If this sounds like a good fit, start by checking with local senior centers, community boards, or even asking friends if they know of someone reliable. You'd be surprised at how many friendly, responsible drivers are looking for an opportunity to help. There are so many ways to stay mobile, and sometimes the best solutions are the ones we create for ourselves. Whether it's leaning on family, sharing rides with friends, or hiring someone you trust, you don't have to give up your freedom. You just have to find a new way to keep moving forward. 13. Senior-friendly walking routes. Rediscovering the joy of the stroll. For years, I thought of walking as a necessity, something you did to get from one place to another. But that changed when my friend, Eleanor, invited me to join her for a morning walk around our local park. At first, I hesitated. "What's the point?" I asked. "I don't have anywhere to go." Eleanor just smiled. "That's exactly the point," she said. The next morning, I laced up my most comfortable shoes and met her at the park. What I thought would be a quick stroll turned into an hour of laughter, reflection, and pure enjoyment. We watched the sun filter through the trees, waved to familiar faces, and even sat on a bench for a while, watching children chase each other on the playground. I realized then that walking wasn't just about transportation. It was about reclaiming space, moving at my own pace, and taking in the world without rushing. Many cities now have senior-friendly walking routes, paths with smooth sidewalks, shaded rest areas, and benches every few yards. Some even have designated walking groups for older adults. If you've ever felt confined by transportation challenges, I urge you to step outside and take a walk, not to get anywhere, but simply to be. Start small, a few minutes around your neighborhood, a quiet path through a garden, a gentle stroll with a friend. It's not about speed. It's about movement. It's about feeling the breeze on your face, the ground steady beneath you, and the simple joy of putting one foot in front of the other. 14. Electric scooters for seniors. A new way to get around. I never thought I'd see the day when I'd be riding around town on an electric scooter. That was something young people did, wasn't it? Zipping down sidewalks, dodging pedestrians, living in the fast lane. Then my neighbor George, a spry 78-year-old, rolled up to my house on a sleek silver mobility scooter. "You have to try this," he grinned. I shook my head. "I'm not sure that's for me." But George wasn't taking no for an answer. He parked it, adjusted the seat, and convinced me to take a slow ride up the street. And I'll tell you something. I felt free. No struggling up hills, no aching joints, just a smooth, effortless glide. Electric scooters designed for seniors aren't about speed or thrill-seeking. They're about staying mobile, feeling independent, and getting where you need to go without strain. Many models come with comfortable seats, easy-to-use controls, and a safe, steady pace. If walking long distances has become difficult, but you're not quite ready to rely on others for every outing, this could be your answer. Check with local mobility stores, test one out, and see if it gives you the same sense of freedom and ease that it gave me. Sometimes, all it takes is a willingness to try something new to discover a whole world of possibilities. 15. Tricycles and e-bikes. Pedaling into a new chapter. I remember the first time I rode a bike as a child. The wobbly first attempts, my father's steady hand on my back, and then that exhilarating moment when I pedaled away on my own. What I didn't expect was to feel that same thrill at 74. It all started when I saw a woman my age riding a three-wheeled bicycle down my street. She wasn't in a hurry. She wasn't competing in the Tour de France. She was simply enjoying a ride. I stopped her to ask about it, and she laughed. "Honey, if you think we have to stop riding bikes just because we're older, you've been misled." That night, I did my research. Senior-friendly tricycles and electric bikes have become increasingly popular. Unlike regular bicycles, tricycles are sturdy, balanced, and designed for comfort. Some even have electric assistance, meaning you don't have to pedal hard. You just glide along with a gentle boost. It took a bit of courage to try it, but the first time I rode through my neighborhood, I felt light and carefree. It wasn't about exercise. It wasn't about transportation. It was about reclaiming a piece of my youth on my own terms. If you've ever loved biking but thought those days were behind you, think again. Visit a local bike shop, test out a tricycle or an e-bike, and see if it gives you that same feeling of wind in your hair and a world waiting to be explored. Because the truth is, movement isn't just about getting from place to place. It's about feeling alive, however we choose to do it. Life doesn't slow down just because we do. It simply finds new ways to keep moving. Whether it's a bus ride, a scooter, or a shared trip with a friend, your independence is yours to define. So tell me, what's your favorite way to get around? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around. Because next time, we're diving into another way to make this stage of life your best yet.